Do you feel like you're dissociated? Do you feel like you're just drifting around, being pushed about by the winds of life and change, and you don't really know who you are or how you're aligned? Grounding is the cure for dissociation. Hi, I'm Florian Birkmayer, and I'm here to talk to you about grounding today because it's fall and it's a beautiful time to remember our grounding and how we ground and what grounding even is, and how we can honor our bodies in this season when grounding is, we're invited to ground by everything happening around us, fall and the days getting colder. So, people use the word grounding all the time, but it actually, to me, has a lot of different meanings. The obvious one is being connected to the ground, to the earth. Whether we sit or stand, we are an earthbound species, um, but we're usually unaware of it. And so, in many meditation traditions, they say that the foundation for meditation is to be like a mountain, which has a really wide base, just so we can have that one point mind. So that's one aspect of grounding. Um, Now, when we walk or when we sit, we should really cherish our Mother Earth that we're connected to. The Navajo said that there's a rainbow at the bottom of our feet, and every step we take should be like giving a mother a hug or a loving touch. Um, so I think that's just some of what grounding is about. Often people will say, "Oh, imagine roots growing out from your sit bone and the bottoms of your feet." And I think it's really important not just to visualize that, which is a very cerebral, very dissociated, very disembodied function, but to really feel it. But this actually leads me to my next point, that even imagining that, I think we're actually grounding from the wrong place. Yes, we stand upright, we're a species walking on two legs. So it's kind of obvious to think, oh, the places with which I touch the ground, my feet and my sit bone, the bottom of my spine, that's where I ground from. But imagine you looked at a human being as a plant. If you were a plant looking at a human being, oh, that's a funny looking plant. But where did you actually grow from? What is your actual, a plant, there's the seed, and then the roots grow into the ground and the branches grow up, right? And in us, that was when we were on our mother's bellies in the uterus. The placenta was really our root network in the soil of the mother's uterus, absorbing the nutrients from which we grow, and then we become this funny looking plant from the plant's point of view. And then we cut our umbilical cord and we start walking around. And if you think about it, where do we get our nutrients from? We get it from the soil that is our gut. Our gut, the soil, the bacteria in our gut are virtually indistinguishable from soil bacteria. And the food we put in our gut is just like the soil to the plants. So that's where we absorb the nutrients and where there's also a death and decay process going on. And the third chakra, which is the solar plexus, where our umbilical cord was connected, where we digest in our belly, is generally associated with earth. And that makes sense. There's that soil within us from which we absorb nutrients. And so in grounding, people talk about this gut feeling and stuff, but I think we need to pay attention to where we are with our gut. Grounding isn't just about where's my foot, where's the bottom of my spine, but really, am I aware, am I tuned into my gut? And, eating food is actually, if it's healthy food, a great strategy for grounding, really coming back into our body by putting food in it. So I think when we ground, let's not overlook the third chakra, the abdomen, the solar plexus, our umbilical cord, because that's really important. And that leads us to the next flavor of grounding, which is really to be in our body. I mentioned dissociation. Many people learn to dissociate to survive traumas, but I think our whole culture is a very dissociated culture. We're constantly in devices, our phones, our laptops. A lot of us, our work is, we're just being rewarded for what our mind can do. We might as well be heads on sticks in these offices doing the jobs we do. There's really no culture of embodiment. And so again, dissociation can happen pathologically as part of trauma, as PTSD, but I think the whole society dissociates us, and we learn to dissociate to make it through challenging times. You know, often work encourages us, you got to power through, ignore your body's needs, just focus. We use things like caffeine and other products that, again, just keep the mind awake and make us blind or deaf to the needs of our body. And, you know, an extreme form of dissociation, of course, that we all know is the old playing possum. You know, possums literally pretend they're dead. But we see this in all mammals and even other animals where they just go limp. So that's the extreme, but various degrees of dissociation where we have often this feeling that everything's kind of underwater, everything feels unreal, or I feel I'm not me. Now finally there's some attention being paid to what's called derealization, depersonalization syndrome, which has long been overlooked because, again, I think it's water to the fish. It's our culture is so dissociated that when people start complaining of it, the first reaction is, oh, that's not really a condition. Now finally there's some voices saying that is a real condition: depersonalization, derealization. Um, so I think you could say that grounding is the antidote, is the opposite of dissociation. If I feel dissociated, if I feel everything's unreal or depersonalized, the number one thing I need to do is grounding. And grounding is also the foundation for any growth, any personal change. We can think it all in our head, oh, I'm going to become this, become that, turn into that. If we don't embody it, it's all just literally idle speculation. Now, another flavor of grounding, or another aspect of grounding, is to be in the present moment. Again, with this dissociation, with our mind being so active, it's easy to go into the future, into the past, regrets about the past, intrusive memories, worries about the future, and we're not even right here, right now. So a big part of grounding is to be fully aware and focus our attention, our awareness on the present moment. And that present moment is very fleeting because we're constantly being pulled to worry about something. There's this going on, there's that going on. So it's like we're swimming in the water to the fish and we're completely unaware of it. So just becoming aware, this is water, this present moment is a great way of grounding ourselves. Now, I also think of grounding as, if you think about a ladder, the only reason a ladder can stand is because every rung is right above each other. Or if you look at our spinal column, the reason we can stand upright is because the spine's well aligned. So I think alignment is another important dimension of grounding. And that's not just alignment in the physical body, but if you're familiar with our work, you know that we talk about, based on several different traditions, we talk about the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. And we need to be grounded in all of those, and we need to be aligned in all of those. And there's also, of course, the collective unconscious and the transpersonal dimensions. But again, we need to be aligned in all of those. And that's the symbolism of that we find often in the term axis mundi, the world axis or the world tree. That's a reminder of that alignment. Know your center. And every part of you, both the physical body as well as the emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, need to be in touch with that center, need to be grounded, and need to be in alignment. So another aspect of grounding, and it's really related to everything I've said so far, is really that grounding is really about feeling safe within ourselves and less dependent on outside influences. Because as I said, outside influences can come and go. We're being asked to do this, we're being asked to do that. We're constantly being pulled. There's sort of this hypervigilance, this, oh, what's going to be asked of me next? Do I better jump on that? That's not being grounded. Being grounded is like, I am me. I feel safe exactly the way I am. And if outside influences come in, we can evaluate them, we can discern them instead of being swept away by them. It can knock us off our feet. And so we need that discernment. Part of grounding is discernment. What's good for me? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? Another aspect that I already mentioned is this hypervigilance. Often we get very obsessed with trying to control our outside environment. We're so used to it influencing us, it making demands of us, that then instead of saying, what do I need? We say, well, how can I control the outside environment so I'm not constantly being bombarded? But that's exhausting and not really grounding. And an extreme form of this, being overly externally focused, is codependence. And I mean, that's a huge subject. So I think we need to do a separate video on codependence. But codependence is sort of, we're overvaluing other people's needs um, way above our own. So you could say grounding is also a big antidote to codependence. But first, we have to become aware that we're codependent, which can be really challenging. So, um, I mean, one statement of that, to really be there for someone else, to really love someone else, we have to love and be there for ourselves first. Again, we need to ground, we need to be centered, we need to be in alignment. But that's easy to say, but very hard to undo these often very well established patterns, unconscious, that have been in our default mode network for a long, long time. And part of grounding is also to accept all of ourselves, warts and all the parts of ourselves that we wish other people wouldn't see or that we're trying to deny ourselves. That's a big part of grounding, is saying, this is all of me. Again, I talked about that alignment, being aligned in all aspects of our body, emotional body, mental body, spiritual body, physical body. And in each of those, there are shadow aspects. And so we need to work with our shadow and own all these parts of ourselves to be truly grounded. Only then, when we accept all of ourselves, are we truly grounded. And that means we're truly home in ourselves. There's this poem that I came across different places over the years, but one of the lines is, I have no home, I make awareness my home. And that's really, that awareness isn't just mental awareness, it's awareness, heart awareness, the physical heart, the emotional heart, the mental heart, the spiritual heart. So, and the other aspect of grounding or being centered and being in alignment is that it's not some static place. Again, that reminds me a little bit of trying to control the outside world. I think that's what Freud's death wish really is all about. Like, I don't want the outside world to change because I don't like any more surprises. But what true grounding, true being centered, true being all of ourselves is, this, it's sort of like when you're walking, just before your foot lands, the next foot's in the air already. It's more noticeable when you're running. So part of being in the moment is that each moment is actually instantly becoming the next moment. There's sort of this constant falling. There's a beautiful poem by William Blake who says, he who binds himself to joy does a winged life destroy, but he who kisses joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. So kissing joy as it flies, moment, moment, moment. We're just kissing each of these moments, then we're living in eternity's sunrise instead of destroying a winged life, which is really our own multidimensionalness. So let's talk about a few essential oils that are useful for grounding, and then we'll do an exercise. So the grounding oil par excellence is really Rookus, which is our distiller's name for wild vetiver, and it's made from the roots of a grass. It's used for erosion control. And so it just really brings us into our body. It makes us feel safe in our body. It makes us feel really at home in our body. So that's a superb grounding oil. You can smell it. If you don't like the smell, you can put drops on the bottoms of your feet. And I would always carry a bottle of it with me, just so I always have something to ground myself when I'm dissociated, when my mind's going, when I'm worried about the past or the future. Just smell it, come right back into the present moment in your body. Now, patchouli essential oil is another essential oil that's really great for this. It grounds in a different way. To me, it's sort of like, if part of dissociation is like everything is out of focus, and patchouli is sort of like someone focuses the camera lens. Everything becomes very clear and focused and demarcated. And I think we need that to be grounded. Angelica root, to me, is like the ladder I talked about, that grounding that's also checking in and really being in alignment in all these multiple dimensions. So it's a superb grounding oil, but then, like Jacob's ladder, it allows us to access all these other dimensions. Now, sandalwood essential oil is brilliant. That's why sandalwood in various forms is used in incense. It's just great for meditation. It's really that base, like the mountain, that wide base that you feel really grounded, so you can meditate, and so you can have that one point awareness. So let's do a quick exercise. So take an oil, any of the oils I mentioned. I'm going to take angelica root, because I really like that multidimensional grounding. Um, as we've talked elsewhere, we always like smelling on a scent strip because then you can, if it gets too much, you can move it away, um, and you can bring it around you. You can cover your aura with it. So just sit and take a few deep breaths. Maybe, well, before you even take the deep breaths, just sort of make sure you're actually sitting comfortably. Maybe roll your shoulders a little bit, straighten your spine, really feel your feet and your sit bones. And then take a few falling out breaths, which means inhale deeply through your nose and exhale deeply through your mouth. And with every cycle of breath, with every inhale and exhale, as you inhale, just feel the air, the awareness taking up more and more in your physical body. And you can tune into your other bodies. And as you exhale, just let go of all that stress and distractedness. And it's really best, instead of making yourself breathe voluntarily, just observe your own breath, like you're watching the waves of the ocean. The wave comes in and the wave goes out. And remember that the air you breathe was breathed by other beings, animals, plants. The plants make the oxygen we breathe. So we're all breathing the same air, and it is the invisible presence that connects all of us. That's how we're constantly reconnecting. The first thing we do when we're born is we inhale, and the last thing we do when we die is exhale. So just keep observing your breath, and as you smell the aroma you've chosen to work with, feel the breath entering you, again like a tide, spreading throughout your body. Feel the aroma spreading through your body also. And through that, you become aware of your body. So just see if you can feel your breath going lower and lower. Maybe at first you just feel it in your throat, and then maybe it goes down to your heart, and then maybe down to your diaphragm, and into your abdomen, and into your pelvis, and feel it going down your legs to your feet and toes, and down your arms to your hands and fingers. And just feel how your awareness shifts, how everything becomes quiet, how everything slows down, how you're much more aware of your body. And as you keep breathing, open your awareness to your emotional body. Instead of all the worries and preoccupations, what does it feel like in your emotional body to be fully present and grounded? Maybe open your awareness to your mental body instead of the busyness of what do I have to do, what am I going to say next, what did I forget? Just the present moment. The river of thoughts, instead of being in turmoil, is just a quiet, steady stream. Tune into your spiritual body. Often many people think they don't even have a spiritual body. But as you smell, as your aroma lets you connect with all parts of yourself, just become aware of what's going on in your spiritual body. And see if they're in alignment, is there disalignment? And I'm feeling like what connects all of them is really my heart. There's my physical heart, my emotional heart, my heart as an organ of awareness, which you could say is it's more than a mental function, but it has a mental aspect. And my heart as a spiritual center. And so all of these, that's in a way, that's the world tree, the world axis. And just stay in this place as long as you can. Even as you're going about your daily business, just remember this feeling. Remember the melody. And I encourage you to practice this as often as you can. We all deserve to be grounded. I just wanted to mention a few other grounding oils. Our favorite rose attar, which of course is very heart opening and in that way is very centering and grounding. Galbanum, and there's other oils. Miti is a particularly miti attar, a particularly interesting way of grounding, really smelling the soil. So I encourage you to practice grounding, especially in this time of year when it's getting colder and we're really being asked to tune into our bodies. What do our bodies need? How can we be grounded in our body instead of trying to make it through the cold season by being dissociated? Now, let me know your experiences in the comments below. If you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel and also maybe let us know what other topics you're interested in. So enjoy your centeredness, your groundedness, and I'll see you soon.